welcome to episode 3 of Off the Shelf, your one-stop shop for all the latest literary news, both here in the library and the wider literary world. I'm Mr. Humphreys.
I'm Miss Ria.
And Miss Ria is going to start us off by talking about some of the latest arrivals in the library.
Yes, so for years 7 to 8, I'm going to start with a fiction book called The Chime Seekers by Ross Montgomery. Now this book is really interesting because it's all about changelings and the fairy world. If you don't know what changeling is, it's basically a fairy baby that gets swapped with a human baby. Basically, and that's the premise of this book. The main character goes on a hunt for their sibling who has been swapped by an evil fairy.
Every parent's worst nightmare.
Basically, they have to go on a hunt to find their real sibling. So it's a very fun adventure book, I think, by the sounds of it. And changelings are really interesting. They're found in folklore and sort of folk tales throughout Europe and the rest of the world as well. I found out they're all, India and Africa and all around the world. I thought it was a very Europe-centric thing, but no, they're everywhere. So it's a really interesting sort of retelling of this ancient folk tale. So
It's updated to modern times, right?
Yeah, so it's modern. So if you're interested in folklore and fairy tales and things like this, it sounds like one to pick up. And his other book was also shortlisted for the Children's Costa Award this year. So he's one to pick up, I think.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Yeah. Next, I have this lovely book, Norse Myths by Matt Ralphs. I really wanted to pick this one up because I think it's great to see a myth book that isn't just the Greco-Roman myths, which also are obviously great, but you don't see a lot about the Norse myths.
No.
You don't often, especially for a younger audience, so I thought this was really interesting. If you like the Avengers and you like Thor and Loki and those storylines, who you might not know are actually from a Norse myth or from Norse tales, and this is definitely one to pick up. I think they feature in some of the stories here. So yeah, if you're interested in myths and you like the Avengers and you like those characters, this is definitely one for you to grab. There's also some really beautiful illustrations inside. I won't spoil it in case you want to pick it up yourself. And it's got goddesses and gods and creatures and beautiful sort of landscapes of that part of the world. So yeah.
Norse myths,
really
to me, Norse myths can be a lot more fun in ways because there's a lot more blood and thunder.
Yes.
And blood feuds and vengeance and all that sort of
Vikings.
thing. And Vikings, yes, drinking mead in Valhalla. So, yeah,
this is great. I think I'm going to pick this one out myself. So
absolutely. So get it before Miss Ria does,
Yeah. And lastly, I have Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, 100 Real-Life Tales of Black Girl Magic. The Rebel Girls series might be one you're aware of. They have quite a few at this point in time. But this one is a new edition that, as the title suggests, focuses on the story of 100 strong black women from recent history. So there are stories of sportswomen, filmmakers, aviators, chess players, video game designers. There's a whole huge mix of different types of people and the incredible lives they've lived. So yeah, this is definitely one to pick up. According to Waterstones, it was designed to acknowledge, applaud and amplify the incredible stories of black women and girls from the past and present. So that tells you everything you need to know about why this book is a great one to pick up.
Yeah, and of course, as you were saying, there's been so many other books, but it's good that they're spotlighting this particular group of people, because obviously it's something that perhaps might have been a bit underrepresented before, so a worthy addition to the series, I think.
I think so, yeah, so that sounds great. Those are my 3 choices. Quite a diverse range, I would say.
Yeah, as always. As always, absolutely. And so there's some great examples of new books we got for younger readers. Now, for older readers, I'm going to start off with this one here. It's called Feline Philosophy by John Gray. Subtitle: Cats and the Meaning of Life. So, as it suggests, in a nutshell, it's about what we can learn from cats about how we should live our lives, essentially. Now, John Gray, he is a prolific philosopher. His most famous book is called Straw Dogs. But even though he is a prolific heavyweight academic, this is quite a light-hearted read. It is something that's very accessible. You can see it's quite short. And the central position he seems to take in this is that cats have a natural state. Because if you think about cats' default position when you see them, whether you own a cat or not, they're pretty content with their lot.
Yeah.
with everything that's going on, and they don't strive for anything unless they're under immediate threat or they need to urgently address something. Whereas humans, we perhaps sometimes aren't naturally content with our natural states of affairs, and we do strive for things unnecessarily. So that's the starting point, and it's very thought-provoking, but of course it is also very amusing. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek as well. So I would say, whether you're a cat lover or not, I know, Mr. You're a cat lover, aren't you, Mr. Rio? Yes.
I am.
So whether you're a cat lover or not, I think this is definitely one that's worth checking out. Cats and the Meaning of Life.
I like the sound of it.
Yes, me too. So next up, I've got a fiction choice here. This is The Sound of Everything by Rebecca Henry. So this is, she's the latest name on the scene, I think, for hard-hitting fiction for older teens. So the story, it's about a cynical, very cynical, and hardened girl called Katie, and she's been bounced around the adoption system. She's moved around from family to family, foster home to foster home. Now it is obviously, as you might expect, it is very dark, it is very edgy, but it is also, but it's not necessarily really bleak or nihilistic. It's also, it's sort of like softened by a bit of humour as well, because as well as her trials and tribulations, it's about her meeting new people, including someone who she might like, who she might fall in love with, provided, of course, that she doesn't self-destruct first. That's the central premise. So it's an essential read, I would say, for anyone who has had to deal with adversity, which is most of us, and anyone who likes this sort of darker, edgier teenage voice. So yes, Rebecca Henry could be a name to look out for the future, because this is her debut. So let's see what else she comes up with. So that's my second recommendation.
Sounds good.
And last but not least, now this couldn't be more timely, Everything You Need to Know About Politics by Jess Phillips. By the time you see this, dear viewer, who knows, at the moment Boris Johnson is still our Prime Minister.
It's all a bit up in the air.
We don't know, I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen, but yes, politics is very much in the frame, and as it always should be. Politics is always important. But we are undoubtedly living, with all that's going on in the world, not just in this country, but in the wider world. Yeah. We're living in turbulent times.
Especially now, yeah.
But especially now, we're living in turbulent times. Now, Jess Phillips is an MP. She's a Labour MP. And this book is really good because it gives you an insider account of... Because obviously, we look at the House of Parliament, it's a bit of an archaic, old institution. Who knows what goes on a daily basis? She lifts the lid on that. She lifts the veil.
Interesting.
So we know more. So it's suitable for both those of us who are absolute beginners, who know nothing about politics, but also those who are studying politics at A-level or a vested interest in it. So yeah, it's very it's full of anecdotes, and it's very light-hearted read, and it's there's a plea as well as to why politics matters. I'm just going to read a little bit. Politics matters. Politics is not a game. It's not a toy for certain people to play while others disengage. Politics is the reason that women have the vote. Is the reason when you break your leg, there is a place for you to go and get it fixed. And if you're reading this in the UK, then the bill is on us. Politics is a universal education that exists in the great majority of the world. Politics is vaccination programs that rid the world of smallpox and are close to ridding it of polio, and are today helping to bring it back from the worst health crisis in many generations. Politics matters. So yes, a heartfelt plea. Yes, indeed. I mean, there are, like I said, there are lots of amusing anecdotes too, but that's what's underlying it. So yeah, very important read for all those reasons. Jess Phillips. Okay, so those are our what caught our eye of our latest Travels in the Library. Now we're going to move on with a bit of more general literary news. So, Ms. Rio.
Well, I'll start off with the reading challenge, which is literary news for us.
It is, yeah.
So we're reigniting it this year. Obviously, it's something we have done in the past and we haven't been able to do in the last few years. But yeah, it's back, which is very exciting. But this year we're going to do it digitally. So every year we would have a booklet with a list of books that you have to read every month in any order you want, really. But this year the booklet is going to be online. It's on Shobi, isn't it?
That's right, so yes.
You'll find it there. Your teachers have probably told you all about it. If they haven't, you can come and talk to us and we'll tell you everything you need to know about it. But essentially the way we're doing it this year is by genre. So in the past we've chosen individual books and you have to read the books that we've offered to you. But this year we've done it by sort of theme, by genre. So you've got horror, you've got adventure, you've got friendship. There's a huge broad range. But essentially this is a way for you to read books you might not normally gravitate towards. So not Hunger Games, not Harry Potter, which are obviously great reads, but the point of this reading challenge is to get you to choose books that maybe a bit different from your normal
Yes.
day-to-day reads,
Yes.
which is why we've done it by genre, because, you know, it's very easy sometimes to fall into the trap of only reading the same genre of books or the same books. So, you know, you might have never picked up a horror book before or an adventure book, so this is a way for you to do that. Yeah, that's everything you need to know, really.
Yeah, it's about reading outside your comfort zone, because
Yeah.
yes, we all have comfort reads, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
No.
it's, as you know, it's a reading challenge. It's about
Yeah.
getting out there and reading something you haven't tried before. So yeah, we're looking forward to, you know, finding out more about what you read and you sharing your thoughts with us.
To see what people have chosen as well. I'm really interested to see what books
Yes.
everyone chooses, because I'm sure they're going to be very different and very diverse. So, you know, you
Yeah.
might introduce us to some new reads as well that we wouldn't have picked up either.
Absolutely. So
But-
yeah, we're learning from it too.
Yeah, and the more you read, the more prizes you'll get.
Very important to
So
note.
that's another little extra incentive there. There's a huge range of things you can do. You can write reviews, you can, well, I won't spoil it, you'll find out.
Yeah, it's all in the book.
It's all in the booklet.
So come
Yeah, you'll win
yes.
lots of different prizes. And
And come see us, as Miss Rio said, if you have any questions. Right, the next piece of news, and this is also a Surbiton High School piece of news, and I don't think anyone who's watching this will, this won't actually be news to you,
Yeah.
but the fashion show this year, which of course is happening in a couple of months from now, in March, the theme this year has a literary theme,
Yeah.
and you're pairing a genre of fiction with a value. Okay, so that's quite a challenge, and it's very appropriate because the fashion show, the first day of the fashion show, actually coincides with World Book Day.
yes,
so,
it does.
So it could not be more appropriate. And of course, World Book Day, we always have fun, we always dress up and all the rest of it. So it ties in rather neatly. So it's going to be a big celebration of literature this year. So we're looking forward to seeing what, you know, it's a big creativity test. Looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing what you all come up with. And may the best house win, i.e. Teresa House, which is the house both of us are in. So go Teresa. No, of course not. Seriously, may the best house win. We're looking forward to
Yeah.
it. It's always a great extravaganza.
Very intrigued to see what people come up with, because it's such a broad and interesting like theme this year. So yeah.
It's a big test of your creativity.
Yes.
And you know, in the past you always seem to pull it out of the bag, so I'm sure this year will be no different.
Yes, go on and see. Next up, we have something that might interest a lot of you. Is the 25th anniversary of Harry Potter this year. Bloomsbury is publishing a special 25th anniversary edition to mark the quarter of a century anniversary, which is very exciting. So that's definitely something for the collection of any die-hard Harry Potter fans. You know, I think they're only publishing it for a short amount of time.
Limited edition.
Limited edition, yeah. So if
Yeah.
you want it for your collection, your Harry Potter collection, it feels like it would be a must-have.
It's a great gift.
A great gift, yeah, true, very true, for any Harry Potter fans in your life.
Which I think we all know someone who likes Harry Potter, surely.
Yeah,
Surely
probably.
that's how popular it is. So yeah,
Yeah, little slice of history there.
absolutely. Yeah, it could be a collectible.
Could be.
So think long term.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Rio. And the last piece of literary news. Now, it's a new year, and naturally, at the start of a new year, we all look forward to things that are going to happen across the year. And in the publishing world, the book world is no different. There's lots of exciting books coming out from first-time authors, from long-established authors, fiction, non-fiction, poetry, you name it. And of course, it's like, okay, well, that's great, but how do I know what's coming up and when? How do I keep track of it all? Well, I'm happy to say that The Guardian newspaper has got a literary calendar on their website, and in the accompanying newsletter to this video we've got the link to it, so you just click on that link, and it's broken it down by month, saying what is going to be published each month, and whether it's fiction, non-fiction, and so on. So you can sort of like look at that and keep tabs and make some notes in your diary of what's coming up and what highlights are coming up. A few things that have caught my eye. So Mallory Blackman's long-awaited autobiography is coming out later this year, so that's going to be
That's
really
great, yeah.
that's going to be a fantastic read, because for those of you who don't know Mallory Blackman, of course I'm sure you've all heard of her, you know, most famous for Noughts and Crosses, but her journey to publishing was a very long and adverse when she had to really fight hard to get it published.
Yeah.
She had to deal with a lot of rejection. So there's a lesson there, whether you're an aspiring author or not. I think there's a lesson there about you know, perseverance and resilience. And then another one that caught my eye, Dolly Parton. Yes, you heard me. Dolly Parton's debut novel is coming out this
fiction.
year. Yes, yes.
Oh.
I think she's collaborating with someone,
Okay.
so not on her own, but still.
Very exciting.
Absolutely, that caught my eye. But yeah, so I'm not going to go into any more. Those are just my two personal highlights. But if you have a look, I'm sure you'll find some highlights of your own. So there you go. So that concludes the first section of this episode. So next up we have our special guest.
Yeah.
So this episode you heard us talking about the fashion show just now. So who better than to be our guest for this episode than the man who is responsible, who's behind the fashion show, for overseeing all things fashion show, and that is Mr. Newton. So without any further ado, over to you, Mr. Newton.
Favourite book from my childhood probably would be The Hobbit. I think Tolkien's writing made it really fascinating for me. I'm a big fan of military history generally, so when I was a youngster, the idea of sword play, lots of exciting storylines on that one, really sold that one for me. So I used to read it with my mum and dad back in the day when I was learning to read, so The Hobbit was definitely up there as number one. A book that I love that most people won't have heard of. I'm going to go with James Clavell's Shogun. Again, you can probably spot the history theme coming through here with a bit of military action thrown into play. I think for me, that book, I've had a few discussions with other people about it, but actually the main part that came through for me was just the fascination of someone from the Western culture coming into Eastern culture in Japan and being such a fish out of water that it was such a fascinating storyline to read and get to know how the character developed and try to absorb himself in someone else's culture. So, you know, there'll be elements of the book whereby there'll be one turn of phrase used, which in Japanese culture there are serious knock-on implications for, and therefore there's 4 pages worth of explanation, which might sound quite boring, but the reasons behind the terminology and the language make it really fascinating and interesting for me. Overrated. So I was having a debate about this one. I'd say maybe slightly controversially on that basis, the Twilight series and saga. I'm throwing it in there, sorry guys, but from my point of view, I know it was made into a film, but there was a lot of hype that was put into the story in the book, and in my honest, humble opinion, not suggesting I might be able to do any better, but I didn't think it was particularly well written from many points of view, and the storyline's a bit wavery, just from a personal perspective there. So apologies for any Twilight lovers out there, but it wasn't one for me. I'm going to be caught out again with the military history point of view. So Connor Golden is one of my favourite authors from many points of view. He's written a number of different series and trilogies. In this case, the Genghis Khan series that he wrote had a lot of factual background, which I found out a huge amount about Genghis Khan, Mongolia, and that time period in history. And the characters that are included, although are very historically true, the characters, I think it'd be a fascinating way to get them involved. Actually, there is a film series out which is called Marco Polo, which is on Netflix. I'm not doing an advertising pledge there, but that's a very interesting time period that's actually about Genghis Khan's son and grandson coming through there. So it's a very fascinating time period of development of history and actually the movement between East and Western cultures with the Silk Trail that comes into play. Three Desert Island books. I think slightly boringly, potentially a dictionary. Actually, you could do a lot of your own writing on that basis there, get a few understandings of basic meanings of different words and their connotations, so that could have some good influence there. I'm not suggesting from a background reading point of view. I enjoy dabbling at the guitar, so I'm going to say a guitar tab book sheet so I can actually learn some music and play some stuff. Obviously, I'm presuming I'm going to have a guitar with me during the Desert Island moment there, so I'm being hopeful for. So my third choice would be the High Performance book, which is based on the High Performance podcast. So it's got 2 authors of that, Jake Humphreys and Damien Hughes, and they basically conducted a number of interviews with sports personalities, superstars, business and entrepreneur figures, as well as people working in charities and other areas. And their main emphasis is actually talking to those individuals about particular areas of where they've struggled, where they've succeeded, their failure stories turned into success stories, and giving you a bit of a must-help or how-to guide, which primarily is actually focused on reflection and how you interpret their ideas and answers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Newton. It's great to have someone different or to interview, PE teachers.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We've got a diverse range here of readers.
Yes, we do.
I'm now going to let you know who won the competition from the last episode. So congratulations to Clementine in Year 7. We'll contact you about it, but if you see this, come to us in the library and we'll give you a prize. So congratulations. Thank you very much for your hard work on our Christmas decorations. There was a great range that we had in the library.
We did.
We
It
loved what you
looked
came up
very,
with.
It was very festive in here.
It did.
And that was,
It did.
that was partly your doing, so thank you to
Yes,
everyone who
thank
entered.
you very much.
Right, so the competition for this episode, now we talked about the reading challenge earlier, and there's an extra, Ms. Rio said there's lots of prizes available, but we've got an extra special little prize available for this half term. So part of the reading challenge is, you read the books, but to prove to us that you've read them, you write a review and Access It. So the best review that is submitted to Access It between now and half term will win an additional prize and some house points on top of it. Okay, so get reading and get reviewing, and as Miss Rio just said now, we will announce the winner in episode 4 of Off the Shelf. Looking forward to seeing the reviews. So that wraps up this episode. So thank you very much for joining us once again, and we will see you on the next episode. Until then, take care.
See you.
Bye. Bye.